King Henry VIII was a big deal in 16th century England. He was the king after all. But despite his powerful position, Henry had a major weakness: women. Henry's love life was a wild ride, full of ups and downs, twists and turns. He had 6 wives, and each marriage was more dramatic than the last. Let's start with wife number 1, Catherine of Aragon. Catherine was a Spanish princess who was married to Henry's older brother Arthur. But when Arthur died, Henry married Catherine, citing a special exception from the Pope. Catherine was a great wife, smart, kind, and loyal. But she had one major flaw. After 24 years of their marriage, she couldn't produce a male heir. Henry was desperate for a son, and when Catherine failed to deliver, he started looking elsewhere. That's when he met Anne Boleyn, a sassy and charming young woman who was one of Catherine's ladies-in-waiting. Henry was immediately smitten with Anne, but she refused to become his mistress. She wanted to be his wife. Henry was torn. He still loved Catherine, but he couldn't resist Anne's charms. So he did what any self-respecting king would do. He broke with the Roman Catholic Church and formed the Church of England, with himself as its head. This move allowed Henry to annul his marriage to Catherine and marry Anne. But their happiness was short-lived. Within the 3 years of the marriage, Anne failed to produce a male heir, and Henry's affections began to wander. Next up was Jane Seymour, a quiet and obedient young woman who was one of Anne's ladies-in-waiting. Henry married Jane just days after Anne's execution. Yes, you heard that right. Anne was beheaded on charges of adultery and treason. Just in the same year of their marriage, Jane finally gave Henry the son he so desperately wanted, but she died soon after childbirth. Henry was devastated, but he didn't stay single for long. Hello, wife number 4, Anne of Cleves, a German princess who was chosen by Henry for her stunning looks. But when they met in person, Henry was disappointed. He felt that Anne didn't match up to her portrait, and he quickly divorced her. The divorce was amicable, and Anne was given a generous settlement. She even got to keep the title, the King's Sister. By the way, if you are enjoying, subscribe for more videos like this. Henry's 5th wife was Catherine Howard, a young and vivacious woman who was chosen for her beauty and her love of parties. But Catherine had a dark secret. She was having an affair with Thomas Culpeper, one of Henry's favorite courtiers. When Henry found out, he was furious. Just 2 years with him, Catherine was beheaded on charges of adultery and treason, just like Anne Boleyn. Henry's 6th and final wife was Catherine Parr, who he met in 1543, a kind and gentle woman who was chosen for her stability and her nursing skills. Catherine was a great wife, and she helped to bring stability to Henry's chaotic household. But even Catherine couldn't cure Henry of his love of women. He remained a ladies' man until the end of his days, even though he was married to Catherine. One of the most interesting things about Henry's love life was his relationships with the women who weren't his wives. He had numerous mistresses throughout his life, including Mary Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's sister. Henry's relationships with his daughters were also complicated. He was close to his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, but he was also incredibly demanding. He expected them to marry well and produce male heirs, just like he had. Despite his many romantic entanglements, Henry remained a charismatic and powerful figure until the end of his days. He died in 1547 at the age of 55 and was succeeded by his son, Edward VI. King Henry VIII's love life was a wild and crazy ride, having 6 wives and each marriage more dramatic than the last, but still remained one of the most fascinating and charismatic figures in English history. Subscribe.